Passionate, driven, enthusiastic, euphoric. This is who we are as entrepreneurs. But how we leverage these incredible attributes to dream and build businesses that scale and grow is what this podcast is all about. Hello, I'm attorneypreneur Josh Brown, and welcome to Franchise Euphoria. Hello, and welcome to another episode of Franchise Euphoria, the podcast focused on helping you, the entrepreneur, find success in business and franchising. You know, if you are an entrepreneur of any kind or ever had thoughts, dreams, or aspirations to build and grow your own company, then you will want to stay tuned in for today's episode. I am simply thrilled to have Scott Hill on the show today. Scott is an entrepreneur with successful fast growth and turnaround experience. His first company was one of the fastest growing companies in the United States, I believe number 58 on the Inc. 500 list, and by all measures, a huge success. But his story is not just about the climb and reaching the mountaintop. No, along the way of experiencing rapid growth, he had a major slip and nearly lost everything. He has now successfully rebranded his company and rebirthed his former baby and successfully turned it around into a new business called PERQ, a global leader in incentive-based marketing built around special offers, contests, and games. Scott's focus these days is on product development, advert gaming, and building a highly engaged culture through practicing business as a game. I'm proud to call him a friend, and he is one hell of a golfer who loves to gamble, never gives me enough strokes, and routinely takes my money on the golf course. Hello, Scott, and welcome to the show.
Hey, Josh. Thanks for having me.
So we have so much to cover in this interview. I mean, I just want to get cranking with it. Your entrepreneurial journey has been fast, furious, and uber successful in many ways. But I want to begin at the start. You know, after you graduated college, you worked for a newspaper. At what moment did you realize that you were an entrepreneur, and can you specifically describe that moment?
Yeah, sure. I'm not sure. I think the first step before realizing entrepreneurship was going to be my path was recognizing how much I loved business. In college, I went to a small liberal arts school. Didn't really have any experience around business, had no desire to go into business. My impression of business was seeing my dad come home late from work and go downstairs and stare at a spreadsheet, and just didn't seem like something that I wanted to do. So I took the job at the newspaper, got into sales, and did okay enough to get a management opportunity fairly quickly out of school. And all of a sudden, when I was put in a management position, all of a sudden, inspiration started happening for me on realizing, like, wow, okay, I'm getting to lead a team here. There's a score that we're keeping track of, which was the financials and the sales performance we were doing as a team. I had competition, which was the person who was in my position the previous year to see if I could beat them, as well as the competition of our competitors from the newspaper. And very quickly, it was like, wow, this is just like playing a game. And I'm a huge game player. I love competing. If you have a score that we're using, then I'm going to be trying to win, as you well know. So all of a sudden, business became much less of something that I was doing just for a paycheck, and became much more of a game that I could be financially rewarded for playing well. So that was the first step. And then progressed from there. And then as I wanted to play the game, I wanted to be in control of my own game, and that's what kind of led me to start the company.
Well, so there you go. I mean, you're defining right there the start of your entrepreneurial journey. I mean, was there something that clicked when you were at the newspaper where the pieces started to sort of fit in the puzzle, and you just kind of said to yourself, I could do this. I could do this myself, and I can do this in a way that's maybe more fun, maybe different, maybe unique, but ultimately successful.
Yeah, actually, that night was November 13th, 2000. November 13th, 2000. I was managing a few newspapers at the time, and I was having to send a report to my boss on a program that we were doing on print and deliver, where we would go out and secure printing jobs from the local market and then outsource those to a local printer. And I had been building that up quite well, and so they wanted a report on what I exactly was doing and the process of writing the report. About halfway through it, it was like, wow, I could actually just go do this on my own, and I could do a lot better services than what I'm able to do here, trapped inside the traditional structure of a newspaper. So that really hit me, and the entrepreneurial inspiration that I think Michael Gerber speaks of in his book, which I know you've had a great podcast with him. Big influence of his books on me, and I certainly had that moment, and went home and started working on a business plan and getting everything kind of put together. Didn't sleep that night. I was so excited, and pretty much mentally quit my job on the spot, which is something you're able to do when you're 24 years old and really have hardly any expenses. I went for it. And the interesting thing, though, I think that was really the groundwork for seeing that moment, though, was I had read a book called Titan, which is about Rockefeller. And reading that book and hearing what he had been able to do and the life that he had created and the impact he had had on the world and society just from purely playing the game of business really had a big impact on me reading it and thinking like, wow, wouldn't it be cool to be able to go do that? And then I think it was 3 or 4 months later where all of a sudden I came across the idea for the business. So I don't think you can make a decision of, okay, I'm definitely going to go start a business here in the next week type of thing. But I think that there's a triggering point that causes you to start looking for it. And then entrepreneurs usually see opportunity within what they're around. And I certainly happen to be around newspapers and printing, and that's where I saw the opportunity, and I went for it and started building from there.
So how hard was it once you had that moment, once you sort of became in your own mind unemployable? That is to say, you saw the vision, you saw where you were going, you started to lay out that process. You say it was 3 or 4 months later. There's a lot of people, and I'm sure there's a lot of people listening who are in jobs right now where they see other opportunities. They may see it through the entrepreneurial lens. They may see it through an idea that they have or another business that they want to buy that's already been created, whatever the case may be. I think with everybody, there's not usually that perfect storm where it all comes together and, like you said, you're able to just walk away immediately. How challenging was that once you figured out, okay, this is where I want to go? I mean, mentally you have checked out, but now you're in your job for another 3 or 4 months. What was your performance like then, and how did you balance both of them? Obviously, you were single at the time, so that was helpful. Yeah. You were young, you were single, you probably did things at night. But talk about that challenge, because I think a lot of people experience that and don't really know how to balance that.
Yeah, I think I've seen a lot of people get 1 foot in and 1 foot out, which is not a good place to be. I certainly never was 1 foot in, 1 foot out. I must admit that I definitely mentally quit my job and knew that I was going to be doing this, but I certainly didn't turn in my resignation that very day. So I did lay some of the groundwork to go talk to some of the market and be able to find out there was an opportunity there. But then very quickly shoved off. It wasn't the 3 or 4 months. That was kind of where I started thinking about, wouldn't it be cool to start a business? And then when I had the idea, I think I quit my job about a month later. But I laid the groundwork enough, and it's so big to start a company younger. It's not to say that you can't do it later on, but I think entrepreneurship is all about risk and reward. And the larger your risks become, the harder it is to take a leap for the reward. I certainly wasn't too far removed from college and trying to make $100 a month, stretch all month, and eating ramen noodles. So it wasn't too hard for me to go back and being able to. I took a big pay cut, lowered the pay that I was paying myself, and just focused everything on trying to drive the business forward. So I think the people that get the 1 foot in and 1 foot out, they try to, okay, I'm going to try to build up this business to where I cannot have an income drop because they can't afford to, because there's homes, there's cars, there's family to take care of. I totally understand that. I encourage those people to try to get as much of an understanding, clarity around, can they really give this a shot? And then go bet on themselves. Go find a small loan. Go try to raise money for some family members. Go give it a shot to be able to truly commit to it. Because the halfway in, halfway out, you really just can't entrepreneurially move something forward with just a couple hours a day to get it started.
So once you started going through that process, and as you say, you just started building your plan, putting it together. Can you walk through that in specifics a little bit? I think there's a lot of people who have that realization, obviously, and then they go off, and then it's like, well, okay, now what? Now what do I do? I mean, there's a lot of differing opinions out there. I mean, I used to believe years ago that, okay, before you launch a business, you got to have your exact business plan. You got to have every detail laid out. The reality is,
of course you did.
Of course I did, right? Is that shocking, right?
No.
That was the legal brain. Taking over. Now that more of the entrepreneurial brain has come back, it's like, well, that's freaking impossible to do. I mean, you can't do that, but still, and I'm curious your thoughts on this, I think you have to have some plan. I mean, you can't just leap and hope that you got to have something in place, but how do you draw that line? Because what happens is I see it all the time. There's people who don't leap at all, and then they have a lot of difficulties that some of which could have been avoided. But then there's people who get so stuck in the details that they never leap because they end up getting talked out of it, or they end up talking themselves out of it.
Yeah, sure. So I think it's not the plan, it's the planning that you have to kind of go through. The plan is going to constantly change as you start your company. Whatever you start your company in, chances are 6 months later it's going to be totally different, and definitely 3 years later it won't even be anything that you started. When you're starting a company, you're trying to just find a little bit of a niche and figuring out some way to be able to get some money coming to you. And I equate that to sitting down on the poker table. It's hard to be able to make a lot of money and do the things you want to do as an entrepreneur, standing behind somebody, watching somebody else play the game at the table. So you have to get your seat at the table, and at that point, you're just trying to stay afloat and be able to get some chips going your way. But the longer you're at that table and you start getting some chips coming your way, you start figuring out what is the best way to get more chips as easily as I can and in a rewarding way as possible. What do I want to do, and what's the best way to provide it to my customers? That's hard to know when you're first making the leap, unless you're already doing what you plan on doing as an entrepreneur. If you're already doing that in the company that you're in, you just plan on recreating it, maybe that's a different experience. But most entrepreneurs go through the beginning process of how is it I just get into the game, and then from there you start building. So I definitely think you go through a planning process to get some sort of plan. And as they say, the plans last until the first shot of battle occurs. So it pretty much, as soon as you start your company, that plan isn't going to last very long. But going through it and thinking through what is it that I want to provide my customers? What am I going to charge? What is expected revenues I can try to achieve and goal myself on the first 6 months? Those are all important processes to be able to kind of put through. They're going to constantly change, but just that thinking is very important to be able to ground yourself as to what you're trying to actually go and achieve. So I definitely did that. And then very quickly things kept changing, but always thinking through, you're thinking through your business model and how to be able to move that forward. And then I went and got some money. My father was fortunate enough that he gave me a little bit of cash to start with, not very much, but enough to be able to cover my salary for a few months for me to be able to go bet on myself. And then from there, made it happen. But being young helps because it was like, well, if I fail, I still am young enough to be able to go get a job and have a good resume. So all those things kind of put together helps me get started.
Well, did you know at that time when you launched? I mean, and you were young, so you may not have, but did you have a good sense of what your strengths were and what you needed to do to plug other people in to fill in your weaknesses, or what you sort of, here's what I'm good at, here's what I need to focus on, or was this something where you just learned as you go?
It certainly was something that I learned as I went. I thought I was much better at sales and marketing than what I am. I certainly had the entrepreneurial ability to be able to go and make it happen. But as the company grew, we started hiring in people that are much better at those positions. But as I grew older and more experienced, started finding out the things that I want to do and where talents invest, what everybody goes through in their 20s and 30s. But starting out, you're just trying to get it done. So the people that you're hiring in, it's not like I'm running ads being able to say, here's a startup being managed by a 24-year-old. This is back in, early 2000s where entrepreneurship wasn't quite as attractive as what it is now to a younger generation. So, at that point, you're trying to find a couple of friends that may work with you, somebody who knows you from a previous job that may come bet on you. So you're just trying to find people who are willing to do what it takes to be able to move the needle. And that's what we kind of brought on board and just kept figuring it out day by day. And some salespeople we hired in ended up moving into operations positions, just different things to be able to figure out each day. Do we just keep moving forward? I certainly wish I would have had a little bit more a better advisor or a mentor that really could have challenged me during that time. That was just something that didn't end up happening, and I might not have just been the best, listener at that point. But I certainly could have benefited from a little bit more experience in how to, once I had the revenue coming in and the flow, how to be able to truly get the structure put in place better than what we did.
So talk about your first company. I mean, we've talked about entrepreneurship. We've talked about the things that you've gone through, but tell us about that first company and how you experienced that meteoric rise that you did, and then we'll sort of get into when things kind of fell off as well.
Yeah. So I think in everything you're trying to start a company, the biggest thing, the sharp tip of the spear that you need to kind of pierce the market bubble of what's existing. You got to have something that when you're talking to someone causes them to say, okay, yeah, let me give this a chance. And I think for an entrepreneur, you don't really have much to work with in terms of a huge technology offering that you've created. You're just trying to get going. And I think it's good to look for overserved or underserved market. Who's paying too much for something that you may be able to figure out how to do a little cheaper because you are just a very small startup company, you might be able to do it cheaper, or who is not getting served well enough that you could apply some additional focus towards because they're only going to be one of a few clients to begin with that you can cause them to want to be able to have additional service you could provide at the same cost or maybe even a little more. So we took the route of looking at, our big growth when we came and started doing standard postage on direct mail, as simple as that sounds. Everybody was doing first class at the time, and as an entrepreneur, I saw what the cost was of standard mail, and why can't we do direct mail campaigns for our customers on standard mail? And the answer was always, do the unique. We need to have this mail hit over a 4-day period for our automotive customers for their big event, that we just couldn't have the reliability on it. I just couldn't stand paying for the first class. So we really started working on how that we control the standard postage better, and actually came up with we're going to take the mail to the post office, have them process it, and then we remove the mail back from the post office and then ship it via private courier to the final post office destination for them to deliver it. So in other words, we cut out the entire post office process, even though we were still paying them. That we removed it from them and paid a shipping company, and that ended up being a great deal cheaper than first class, and we still got enough of reliability that we needed. All of a sudden, we were now able to go call on customers that were paying first class for direct mail and telling them, we can do this for you cheaper. And we were still making as much profit as what the other companies were that were doing it first class. We were just passing the savings on to our customers. That all of a sudden triggered a tremendous boom because we had done a competitive differentiation around a lot of innovation, and most people think innovation and technology. This was just a simple innovation of here's how we're going to do something differently to provide a great deal more value to our customers because they're currently overpaying. They don't want first class. They just need the mail not to hit somewhere over a 3-week period. They need more control than that. So we provided it to them, and we started booming and growing like crazy. At the time, I didn't even know that was the reason that we had triggered all this growth. It was, making decisions and moving forward. Now we're growing. Okay, let's keep it growing. And we started hiring people in, and they started proving that they could go sell it without us having to go sell it for ourselves. And we just started scaling one day at a time around the revenue that we brought in. We never raised any additional money. It was just going and getting more customers, making some money, hiring some more people in, going to get some more customers, hiring some more people in, putting some processes in place as scale started growing and started becoming too messy, creating our own technology to order, systemize ourselves. So it was just every day of trying to go get more customers and then trying to process the work that we were getting in. And it was stressful growing as fast as what we did. I mean, we went from, couple guys we did $750,000 in sales our first year to $2.8 million to $8 million to $11 million to $18 million to $27 million to $37 million all in 5 years.
And so it sounds like you just built a better mousetrap, right? I mean, you're in the direct. This time you're just in the direct marketing, direct mail space, right?
Correct.
So you're basically the only thing that's attracting clients and customers to you at this point is that it's a cost savings for them, right?
Well, I wouldn't say we'd added some additional services around it because we got so specialized in around the automotive events. So we definitely were adding additional services, but that was the unique. We were all of a sudden able to add this specialized. We exist purely for you, and here we also have this reduced cost. So that between the additional services to make their life easier because we were so focused around the automotive events, and then the lower cost on the postage, we were able to make a big gains. Very quickly, competitors started doing the same thing on the postage. And I'm not going to say we were the first to do the standard postage. We just know we were exploring how to do it at the same time other people were as well. And then the competitive pricing ended up catching up with us a few years later, but we still had our specialized services.
So here you are building this company, and I believe you had Andy was involved, right? Your partner at the time.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah, he was involved from the beginning. So that's your partner in this. You're building this company. You guys are feeling pretty good about yourselves, I would think, having built
a little too good about ourselves.
Yeah, I mean, talk about that. I mean, because I think that to a lot of people, it's obviously just getting out of the gate and just getting it going, and that's a huge accomplishment, right? I mean, but I think as entrepreneurs, you never really feel like you've reached your summit. You've never really you're always going. You're always, as you would say, playing the game. But what sort of take us back to that time where you started to realize, and maybe it happened more abruptly than this, where it's just like, holy cow, something is going way wrong here. What do we do?
Yeah. So, when we started the company, we had a few goals that we had that we motivated the team with and ourselves, that we wanted to be one of the fast-growing companies in the nation. We wanted to be one of the best places to work in our state, and we wanted to be known for giving back to our local community, and starting to have, capitalism had a good name attached to it, not just the evil greed that kind of sometimes occurs. And we achieved all three so fast. I mean, we had started winning the Best Place to Work awards in like 2000, the 5-year mark. We were giving a lot of money and service back to the local community, and we're known for that, recognized for it, and then the Fast Growth Awards. So very quickly, I built our entire identity around fast growth and achievement, as opposed to what we were going to be doing for our customers and what our values were attached to that. And so that. We never really had a North Star to guide us as to what are we going to exist for our customers. And then all the things that I had goaled ourselves on, those become the benefits from doing something extremely well for your customers. Instead, we were kind of doing things for our customers in order to achieve our goals. All of a sudden you achieve your goals, and I really honestly just kind of got bored. I didn't know where to take the company. Obviously there's something wrong when you have this extremely fast growth company. We have like 80 or 90 employees. We're doing $30-some million in revenue. And, I was bored because I did not know where to take it. We talk about playing the game. I always want to play the game. I didn't understand where the next levels of the game were. So if you're constantly playing a video game or a board game and you're just stuck on the same level, you get bored. And I didn't know where to go. And so I'd overheard about a Harvard business program. It's a 3-year program. You go over 3 weeks on campus each year, and then you do some things off-site during the 11 months that you're not on campus. And I enrolled in that, and it totally changed my perspective of what we were trying to be doing as a company and how to actually structure and put a foundation in place for a sustainable and long-term value company that can truly create some wealth and have a valuation attached to it, not just generate revenue. Because at that point, we were very good at generating revenue, but not necessarily building a company, if that makes any sense.
Well, break that down. Break that down a little bit more. I think that's a huge point.
Yeah. I mean, we had a ton of revenue, but you talk about the mousetrap. It was just it just wasn't a very good foundation company because we didn't have the North Star of guiding us as to where is the next round of innovation going to occur. Where are you next going to be taking this? What are your core fundamentals, core skill sets that you have internally that you're going to continue to build upon, and then what else are you going to bring in to add to it? No, we were just growing. I mean, we're just adding revenue. And so we didn't really know enough to be able to know what types of people we should be hiring in or where to expand from. I mean, quite honestly, the business was just way ahead of my ability to lead it once it reached that level. I got it started, but I had never, that was the biggest company I worked in at that point. It was bigger than the company I had left to go start the business, and I was just out of my league. So the Harvard program really started giving me I didn't have any business school experience, so it really gave me a lot of the fundamentals that you need to be able to be a good businessman, not just a good entrepreneur. And then we started putting some things in place around some technology innovation that I thought could kind of give us a big differentiated competitive advantage. Because when I was at Harvard, the thing that caused me to puke in the aisle as the professor speaking is saying that you can tell how good your strategy is by how good your differentiation is. And you can tell how good your differentiation is by this one litmus test. And that is, if you decided to close down your business today and you called up all your customers and said, I'm going out of business because I have done this long enough, I no longer need to, and I am done, I am shutting it down. Our business no longer exists for you. How much pain would your customers feel from receiving that news? And pain can't be just, I'll just pick up the phone and call another company that can do the exact same thing. And switching costs aren't pain. I'm talking switching costs just from talking from one person and another and writing a check to a company to talking to another person and writing a check to another business. So how much pain it causes them? How much does that person run to their boss and say, oh my goodness, ABC company just, decided to, shut down the doors, and I don't know where we're going to get this and this done because this was the best company we've ever worked with that could do this. We didn't have a this at that point anymore. We were just doing the same thing as every other company was. So we started investing in technology and started putting some kiosks along with our direct mail campaign. Started moving down that route. And that really gave us a good differentiation, a North Star to focus in on, okay, we're going to differentiate ourselves around technology, not just the print part of it. And then unfortunately the recession hit, which crushed the automotive industry, and we got caught up in that as well.
Wow, that's a lot in there. So it sounds like that's great stuff, Scott. I mean, because right there you've highlighted sort of an aha moment for you when you're at Harvard and you're listening to the professor and you're puking in the aisle. Because you're saying, "Oh my God!" I mean, he's speaking. He's identifying something in your company that you guys know you don't have. I mean, if you went out of business tomorrow, they'd just switch over to your competitor. You lost that differentiating point. It sounds like you lost the whole identity of what was attracting customers to you in the first place. And then
we had that initial differentiation and never grew from beyond that.
And so then how did you, I mean, because that's a huge thing. And then how did you then, what was the process you went through to then come up with the idea of doing the kiosk and basically saying, we're going to differentiate ourselves? Because that's a big decision. Now you're saying we're going to lay our stake. We're gonna ground this company, and we're gonna differentiate ourselves on the technology side of things, and that's what you've done ever since. But what led you to that?
Well, I think it's tough saying that you're going to invest in technology, and I probably should have been a little clear on that. We use technology to better our existing services, and it's for clarity around, okay, if we're going to be doing these events, we're going to be the best at them. And we're not getting the data back from these sales because our customers don't know what it is. They've done these campaigns, and people come into their stores, and then they never know how well they worked. So we're going to use technology to fix that, and then from the data, we'll be able to create better campaigns because we'll know truly what's going on. And technology was the answer, and that's what we focused in on that. And then, that became a much better opportunity for us moving forward in the future part of the company once we emerged from the recession. But the decision to be able to go and get it was, making that decision of where is it that we can truly start differentiating ourselves. We didn't have good differentiation because we didn't have a strategy. So the first part was, putting a strategy in place that says, okay, here's where we're going to go compete. Here's how we're going to compete best at it. And then in order to do that, we need to go create this technology. Okay, how do we go about creating that technology? Then you start moving down that path of A, B, and C in order to go create the technology. And then it circles back into, okay, well, now it's actually been rolled out into your company because of your strategy. You have a little bit better differentiation around this technology. And now where else can you invest in around the technology that continues to leverage the differentiation, the foothold that you put in place because you now have kiosks in all these individual stores. And we just kept moving forward with that. Unfortunately, let me back up a quick. It's easy to get ourselves in that situation because when you start growing a company and it explodes very quickly with revenue, it's like the first oil miner who all of a sudden, taps oil underground and it starts exploding from the gusher. At that point, you're not worrying about how to go create 6 other oil drills and wells to go start pumping other oil. You're trying to figure out how to get control of this amazing gusher that you just tapped into. So we were trying to get control of that for the first 3 or 4 years because they just kept gushing oil. It wasn't until it stabilized and got a little slower that we started saying, what else and where else do we go? Wow, we really don't know. And that's where the Harvard education and the decisions made from there really helped us. And then the recession really exposed a great deal of pain in our company, but also gave us an ability to clean house and get even more focused on what we were going to do in the future.
So what was that like? I mean, because now you're really talking about, well, let me ask you this. Which was harder, starting a business with nothing and from scratch, or restarting your business after you've already been successful to a certain degree?
They're just different. I will say that the fast, crazy growth we had on the front end of the company was exactly the same as surviving the recession, just the exact opposite. In other words, you don't really have time to do an extensive amount of planning. You're just trying to stay ahead of the revenue that's coming in. Well, on the other side, it was collapsing so fast, you don't have time to be doing a bunch of planning. You're just trying to stay ahead of the revenue that's going out the door. And so, you make a round of cuts, and then 3 months later you make another round of cuts, and then you're trying to hold on to this customer, and then you lose that customer, and you make another round of cuts. So it's extremely painful surviving the recession. The most painful thing about it is that at that point, we still hadn't really put in the core identity around what we were going to be as a company. We were still so attached to we're a fast growth business. Well, that's not a good core value to have because that's just not sustainable. What happens when all of a sudden you cease being a fast growth company? Your whole identity goes out the door. And that's what happened to us. So our culture really had some tremendous upheaval. And it was a very negative time because we had all these, what we thought of ourselves as whiz kids going through their first moment of, wow, not everything just comes so easily. And so we had to really survive it. We went from $37 million in revenue down to about 14. So extreme, huge drop, and that was in a 18-month period. And then we finally stabilized in 2010. It was basically like, okay, don't let anybody breathe, because we actually just achieved positive cash flow again. And then after, staying still for a little bit and just trying to, make a little money and get a little bit of a cushion, then we started, okay, where is it that we're going to go? Where is it that we're going to head? And we started laying out the groundwork and the ability to focus on the technology again and create our whole new identity moving forward. So very difficult to try to rise from the ashes. We had to do a bunch of, new teams being hired in, some people letting go that didn't want to buy into where we were heading. So different, because it was much more of a turnaround than a startup.
So let's focus for a couple minutes on present day. So you've now made a transition in the company, and I'm very excited about it for you. I know you're very excited. I want you to kind of talk about it, because I think it's applicable to a lot of different businesses. It's applicable in the franchise space. It's also applicable to businesses in general, in terms of what you guys are doing as a marketing, as an advertising company that I think is unique and different, and not only driving incredible results, but being able to show people the results that you're driving, and sort of doing it in a way that is more conducive with new age marketing or content marketing. So talk about that with the company today.
Sure. So, we focus on creating marketing technology that enables everyone to be able to see the results of any form of media they apply their advertising to, and then also to be able to get a higher response from that marketing by leveraging the prizes and games and a way to have a different level of engagement from your responders with your brand. So that may be a matched tiles game where they're matching different products that you may have on a memory game. It could just be as simple as a slots game, just to be able to tell them if they've won one of your special offers or a prize. But what we found is that at this point, more and more, people are looking more from a business than just a coupon in order to be able to engage with it. Now, don't get me wrong, coupons and special offers are a big part of what we leverage for a call to action for immediate response. But by giving some additional to it, that could be a little bit more fun. Go here to be able to see if you have the best answer to this trivia question. Go here to see if you can win this memory game. And then also having some big prizes in place. We've seen a lot higher response. And then we're able to show all the data of everybody who responds to it, the questions that they answered while they were on the technology. And then we also incentivize them to socially share when they're on the platform. So we're basically increasing the response that someone is normally experiencing with their advertising to a much higher degree with all the investments that we've made on the technology.
You're essentially, it's funny because it's like full circle in my mind, is you're taking really what drove you at the outset years ago, back in 2000, to launch your business because you thought of it as a game, you sort of made it fun. And now you're almost, through technology, through the use of a lot of technology, you're essentially saying to your customers, look, we're going to make this more fun for your ultimate customers, and that's going to drive them to want to be a part of what you're doing.
Exactly. And I think you kind of steered to a point that I kind of want to make me know that's what we're doing, but, kind of part of the podcast for other people in business out there. The route that we got to making these decisions and these investments of how to go was really looking at, once we got through that recession, it was, okay, where is it we go? What do we have to leverage, and how do we move forward? Well, we knew that we had dabbled in this technology creation. We thought we could get that done. We also looked at the marketing landscape out there and saw that marketing technology was exploding, that marketing technology companies were getting extremely high valuations. There's a tremendous amount of potential in them, and it was still in the wild, wild west phase where there was plenty of land to go out there and sell. And so it was like, okay, let's head in that direction. And then once you start heading in that direction, then you start thinking, okay, well, what can we create around marketing technology that could have a lot higher value to the customers? Well, we have this great internal skill set on leveraging incentives to be able to get a higher response and be able to measure it. Okay, well, how do we keep building upon that? And that's where all the levels of innovation that we kept having on technology came from, by basically answering those two things of, here's the area in the West we want to go settle on, that we believe that we can have a tremendous future value down the road. Here is the skill set we're going to focus in to be able to leverage that direction that we're heading towards. And now here is the areas of differentiation that we're going to continue to build on, and that being the leveraging the special incentives and then the games and prizes to be able to have a higher form of response.
Where do you see over the next 5 to 10 years, if you had to predict or sort of as you think about where things are going? I mean, things are changing so fast. Technology is changing so fast. I know that, you know, the digital side of things on the internet, it's already such a crowded space. So it's already difficult to get your message across, right? Because there's a lot of ways. There's a lot of ways to filter you out. And so to me, the winning formula is being able to have a clear understanding of who you're trying to attract and for what purpose, and then to create that content that's going to attract them. And it's all about communities, right? Communities and engagement. That's what drives everything, because at the end of the day, you know, we all do business with people we know, like, and trust. And so you're always trying to build on that. Do you see things continuing to go down that community engagement road? Or where do you see things going?
I do, except I would only say that, you know, the content and the thought leadership thing, that is extremely important. We do a lot of it here. Only every single company in the world is starting to do that. So, I mean, how many thought leaders can you have in each industry? How much content? So before, it was a way to be able to differentiate you because you're only one of 4 in your industry that was producing content and putting it out on the web. Well, now you're one of 4,000. So it quickly becomes, again, it's just a constant differentiation game. If you're figuring out a way to be able to do some things better, then the competition quickly catches on. So I think you're going to see continued innovation around the ways to be able to leverage content and be able to get it delivered. I think there's going to be continued progress in actually having the data around the target customers, to where collecting data on the people you do business with and being able to leverage those people to share your message, you know, your existing customers, through the use of technology, I think is only going to move forward. Social media is so big because we've always known that the word of mouth is the best way to be able to attract new customers. You know, doing something great for one customer and having them go tell another customer about it, or a person about it, is the best way to get that person to become a customer versus you telling them. So being able, as businesses get more advanced, and companies like ourselves get more advanced in the technology, to be able to have technology of social media be that platform where someone is telling their friends about your business, I think is going to be a next level of where we start seeing that payoff with technology and social media.
Well, yeah, it's the wow factor, I think. I mean, it's you know, it used to be, you know, with all the various social media sites when they first were getting started, you know, you could throw something on there and next thing you know, it's got a viral component to it. Well, now there's just so much of that. I mean, hell, half the stuff on there I don't even see or pay attention to because it's coming at us too fast.
Exactly. And so actually be careful on social media, because, I mean, like, the capabilities, when I talk about the data and collecting the individuals, it's like forming that persona to be able to know, here's how we're touching people socially, here's how we're touching people digitally, here's how we're touching people through email, but all of it be rounded around the data of being able to see who engaged with what. Okay, this person just clicked a link through a message that was shared from a customer through social media. Okay, now we know that they saw this. Okay, now let's send them an email that follows up, because we've already know that they've seen this message. Okay, they clicked on that email and opened it up. Okay, now let's actually send a targeted direct mail piece that references what they clicked on the website, that they clicked through on the email. That's, you're going to see more of this data in the chain of the links of all these forms of marketing starting to come together. Whereas before it was, here's a digital marketing agency, okay, here's an email marketing company, okay, here's a social media agency, and they were all looked at silos of ways to be able to move the company forward. The technology is getting so good now where it just ties everything together, where you can just kind of use it as different touch points of engagement that prospect or customer had with you, to where you can keep targeting and nurturing the exact message of how that person engaged with you on the next time that you send a message to them. So that's much more advanced. Think of the Amazon website. After you purchase a few things on there, they start recommending things to you that you want next. I think you're going to start seeing that much more in all forms of marketing, because they're going to know so much more about you as a consumer.
Yeah, I mean, it's scary, but that is the absolute golden nugget, because at the end of the day, it's about solving people's problems, right? So you as a business and what you're doing, you're solving your customers' problems by driving more consumers to them, or whatever business they happen to be in. You're driving something to them. But to drive that, you have to have such a clear understanding of what they want, and almost just like with what Amazon does, which is they know sometimes what you want before you even know what you want.
Exactly.
You know.
And that's where, our technology comes in to where we're using, what we know is that there's a huge percentage of people that enjoy coupons and special offers and that also enjoy games and contests. And that applies to a large spread across a lot of people. So by getting an initial engagement for awareness, by doing something around it, they then engage with the technology and we get them to give us some feedback and information that then enables that business to be able to do some further additional targeted marketing to those consumers, because here's someone that hadn't engaged with your company before that now has given you some information about what they're looking for or what car they're currently driving or when they plan on purchasing a new mattress, whatever it may be. We now have that information for you to then be able to go do some additional future marketing. So we're kind of attacking it from, there's a lot of marketing automation companies that make it easier to manage your database, but we're attacking a layer on top of that, which is here's how to generate a bunch of new leads to put into your database, but then here is some useful information for you to retarget them based on their initial engagement they had with you through our technology.
Well, Scott, thank you so much for your time today. I mean, I could talk to you for hours, and we generally do end up doing that. But I know you've got to get going. I got to get going. And before we go, though, I want to give you an opportunity to tell people how to reach out to your company. And even if they want to reach out to you or anybody in your organization, where they go to do that. And then certainly look forward to following your continued success, and maybe we'll have you on at a later date.
Sure, I appreciate it. So you can find much more about our company at PERQ.com. It's PERQ.com. That will give you a lot of information on what we do for businesses, as well as the ability to be able to get some content on there to learn more about how to make your business better. But then also, if you want to choose to move forward, give you the individual to be able to contact.
Now, before we go real quick too, just to classify it a little bit more, is there a particular size business that you guys are looking to work with, or does
size isn't as important as the category. We're very focused around businesses that are B2C, so any business that's working with consumers. So we're focusing on that because our technology around the games and contests works a great deal better around the special offers that appeal to consumers versus a B2B business. So anybody who is working with consumers out there and is looking to be able to trigger some additional results on their advertising, that's where we come in.
All right, Scott, thanks again. Look forward to talking with you soon.
I appreciate it, Josh. Thanks for having me.
Thanks for being with us today on the Franchise Euphoria podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go to iTunes and provide a review. Also, please remember that although Josh Brown is a licensed and practicing attorney, nothing contained in this podcast should be construed as legal advice, because it is not. The information contained in this podcast is general and educational in nature, and none of it should be relied upon as legal advice. That being said, if you have questions for Josh and would like to contact him, please email him at josh@franchiseeuphoria.com. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you tune in to our next weekly episode.